ScentBlocker Most Wanted is brought to you by Mossy Oak. It's not a passion, it's an obsession. ScentBlocker. Nothing gets you closer. Ford and your quality Ford dealers. Browning. The best there is. Cuddyback. Designed in the USA with quarter-second trigger speed. And Tree Spider. The new world of tree stand safety.
A couple weeks ago, we saw Bob hunting Alberta black bears with North Alberta Outfitters. This week, Bob's back in the blind, but he's got his sights on a color-phased black bear. Plus, it's gun season in Missouri, and Larry's hunting the hardwoods for a big Missouri buck. But first, we're headed to Alberta. You may remember that Bob was invited to go on this hunt by some of our good friends from Mossy Oak. No one wasted any time getting their first bears on the ground. The guys at North Alberta Outfitters have a new bait site picked out for Bob, and this one has recently been visited by a color-phased bear.
Well, took about a 60-mile trip to get here, but we're gonna hope it's worth it. You know, they had a beaver out here 2 days ago. It's gone. The bait they've got set up right now has been hit pretty hard. You know, it's about 3 hours before it gets dark, and just got a temporary ground blind. And you know, for bear hunting on the ground, this is totally different for me. This is exciting. Man, talk about up close and personal. Normally we're up in a tree looking down. You can see him a long ways. We're set up about 20 yards from where this bear is gonna get. And we gotta hope that we can get him maybe to come this way. That's a maybe.
Looks like Bob is all set, so let's check in on Larry as he hunts the opening morning of the Missouri firearms season.
There's a buck right there. He went back in the brush. We'll see if this works. There he comes, there he comes, there he comes. Looks like a 3-year-old point. Probably ought to shoot him. We got several days left. We're right here along the Mississippi River, northeast Missouri, and there are some really trophy bucks in this area. We'll show you some of the rubs down here, big around as I am. Now that's big. So, a lot of times, a lot of places in Missouri I'd have shot him. Hope they don't come back to haunt me, but he's a nice 3-year-old buck. see what happens.
There's lots more to see from the Most Wanted crew at facebook.com/ScentBlocker Most Wanted.
ScentBlocker Most Wanted is brought to you by Matthews Solo Cam, catch us if you can, and Rage, leading the evolution in lethal technology.
Welcome back to ScentBlocker Most Wanted. We just saw Larry rattle in a nice 3-year-old on the opening morning of Missouri firearms season.
Now, if we can see what's making these rupts, that could be interesting. Well, for here in Missouri, that was definitely a shooter. Looked like probably a 3-year-old buck, but in Missouri, with all the hunting pressure, we don't have enough land here to manage for 4, 5, and 6-year-old deer. So he's definitely a shooter, but he's got a hot doe pinned down and runner back in the brush there. So, but we do know there are some big bucks here. If we can see them in the daylight, now's the time during the rut that something could drag one of those really big bucks across here.
The evening hunt is nothing to write home about, but there's always tomorrow. Let's see how Bob's doing in Alberta. You've got a perfectly good Matthews bow right there. Why do you want to go poke him with a stick?
ScentBlocker Most Wanted is brought to you by the Whitetail Institute of North America. Deer nutrition is all we do. And S4 Gear, meeting the demands of nature and those who tame it.
Welcome back to ScentBlocker Most Wanted. We're tagging along as Bob hunts black bears in Alberta and Larry hunts close to home during the Missouri gun season.
I left that flat creek bottom the second morning to go to a place in some deep woods up on a big ridge where I've had a lot of success before. As it happens so many times, I'm in the stand, it's 30 minutes before it starts getting light, pretty pitch black, but there was a moon, and there's a buck comes right under the tree. And he was nice, and he ambled off down the hill, and I sure hoped he'd come back. Well, sure enough, not long after daylight, from that direction, I think that same buck was coming back. You know, I had several opportunities here, it looks like, but you know, the trees are just like this. And I'm looking through that Nikon scope and I just never had a perfect shot at his vitals that I didn't think I'd be clipping limbs and shooting him, you know, the second morning of the hunt. So, you know, I figured I had time.
Well, 7 o'clock. Should have been done. As you can see, it's thick right here. And I just never had him where I thought I could thread one through there and not hit something. And, you know, I did not want to wound him or anything like that, so he got biased. And the thing about it is the wind is blowing right to him, and we beat his nose. Here he comes back, right there he is. There he is, get ready. Right there in front of me. You got him.
Well, any of you guys that are deer hunters know that the fall of 2011 was a sauna. Here it is, supposed to be the peak of the rut, and it's gun season and 75 and 80 degree temperatures. Well, taking the wind into consideration things, I had another stand just outside one of our food plots set up in some really thick brush that buffers this field. You know, we got in there and there's just giant rubs in there all around this thing. It's definitely a place where the deer stage up before they make that break after dark down into the feeding areas. Now, this stand had its limitations, but with everything else going on, I decided to make a move and hunt this stand. Even though it was hot, I got up in this stand early in the afternoon and, you know, thinking I'd probably be able to take a nap for a little while or something. But I mean, in no time, there was a nice, I think, maybe a 3-year-old buck come down in there. You know, I've been looking at this buck, but all of a sudden, he snorted and threw his head up the hill, and I looked, and there was that 10-pointer, and it was so thick, you don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to run and chase each other? So it was one of them things, get your scope on him and shoot him.
That's how I roll. Real nice 10-pointer. Mature buck is what I've been looking for. For many years now, I've been shooting the old, reliable Winchester 1300. I'm very happy with that. You know, we was in a tight spot that has really thick brush, but it's in a place where, you know, they come down and cross from one side to the other pitch. I let the other guy go. He really short tined, and he's going to be a heck of a deer. And this is another year older, great buck for the state of Missouri, and I couldn't be happier. We'll be right back with more ScentBlocker's Most Wanted right after this.
ScentBlocker Most Wanted has been brought to you by IQ, center the dot for the perfect shot. Block, history's toughest target. And Glendale, the biggest and toughest 3D targets in the universe. ScentBlocker Most Wanted has been brought to you by Winchester Rifles and Shotguns. Trust your hunt to a Winchester. Mission Archery. Ford and your quality Ford dealers. The Redemption Muzzleloader from LHR Sporting Arms, made for a lifetime, not for a season. And Gilbreth's Taxidermy, the official taxidermist of ScentBlocker Most Wanted.
Deep in the Alberta bush, Bob has finally found his target. And after running off a smaller bear the day before, a chocolate color phase has come right to the bait site.
That, without a doubt, is the prettiest color phase bear that I've ever seen. Now, I've shot so many black bears over the year, but that thing, is absolutely gorgeous.
You know, I got to thank a lot of people for this bear being on the ground. And, you know, Troy at North Alberta Outfitters, what an incredible operation. You know, whether you're looking for bear hunts, whitetail hunts, moose hunts, this guy is the real deal. I also want to thank the guys at Mossy Oak for inviting me on this trip, and for my partner Larry Woodward. And I don't want to forget Tyler and Corey. They made this all happen. I'm Bob Richardson, and we'll see you somewhere next week right here on ScentBlocker's Most Wanted.